Okay, so Chanukah Sameach, apologies for the slightly late delay. We are broadcasting from JW3. So where?
There you go. I can see. Just keep talking. There we go.
This is a joint effort. We're broadcasting from JW3. It was an amazing offer that we were able to use this space. We took our teenagers to go ice skating and had a great time with them. And then we decided we would broadcast from here. We just had a few microphone issues. So apologies to those of you who have been waiting anxiously to light your Chanukiah with us. Hopefully we will be able to do that very shortly. So just as a way of setting ourselves up, I've been thinking about the Hanukkah story, and following a little bit on from what Rabbi Miriam said yesterday, wanted to think together a little bit about what really is the Hanukkah story. What's the message of Hanukkah? And I've just got a message from someone that says we can hear, so that's great news. Okay. So because I did my undergraduate degree in history, I love this idea of multiple things that could be a possible source that help us to tell a story. So one of the things I love is that we have these kind of multiple narratives. So it can feel a bit like a sort of detective process to discover what the real Hanukkah story is. So if we go through most obvious sources, we start off with one piece of the story that we probably know kind of well. And that's this idea that basically there was a Maccabean revolt. We're placing ourselves around 168, 165 BCE, that sort of time. And we're told about Antiochus Epiphanes, who is this despot who is trying to encourage everybody, not really encourage actually, really force everybody to observe the same religion, to worship the same gods, and in this context it's gods in the plural. And then we're told that as a result of this there is the destruction of the temple, there is a desecration of the worst kind, the sort of thing that is not appropriate for family hour Hanukkah lighting, but it's not good things that are going on. And then we're told about the Maccabees, who fight their way back to the Temple Mount. They clear the temple, they construct a new altar, and they ultimately rededicate the temple. And that connection of the word rededication and Hanukkah is the beginning, if you like, of our story. But we're missing a major piece here. There's something that you're probably thinking, hang on a second, where's the oil? There's nothing about oil in this story. So where do we find the piece of the story that tells us about the oil? That comes from the Talmud. It's in Tractate Shabbat 21b, if you're keen to look it up. And the question is asked by the rabbis, which is just, what is Hanukkah? And the answer that we're given is that it occurs on the 25th of Kislev, which matches our historical account, that it's a festival that lasts for 8 days. And all we're told really is that lamenting or fasting are prohibited. And then there's a little bit of a story. And the story tells us that there were Hellenists who defiled the sanctuary. And specifically, one of the problems was all the oil. Now, we're told specifically that they could only find one vial of oil intact. And what does that mean, intact? It may well mean that there was more oil, but there was only one vial of oil that had the seal of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest. And so only one vial that they could actually use in order to light the menorah, which should not be confused with a Chanukiah. This is the menorah that exists in the temple that should be lit all the time. And then we get our story about there was only enough oil to last for 1 day, and yet the miracle, and we have then the word nes being used, this miracle comes in, and we're told the miracle is that the oil lasted for 8 days. So there we've got the historical account, then we've got the account from the Talmud, and we kind of mix our stories. Then we move on, and we have an account that you can find in our Siddur, in the MRJ Siddur. If you have a look on page 374, if you're interested to find it, it's the insertion that we put into the Amidah during the part of the prayer that begins with the words Modim Anachnu Lach. So it's during the Thanksgiving part of the text. There's a Hanukkah insertion. And that specific insertion, again, talks about a miracle. But the miracle is more about God supporting us in our hour of need. It's about a God that will stand up for us, that delivers the strong into the hands of the weak, and the many into the hands of the few. And it ends with this very clear message. So the last line of the text says, Ul'amcha Yisrael asita teshua gedola ke hayom hazeh, which we would translate as, God gave a great victory to the Israelites, as God does to this very day. So there's some kind of significance of a message that suggests we can put our trust in God, which makes sense that that would come in a specific part that, of our service where we're talking about thanksgiving, and also where we're praying, where actually we do need to feel that we can be confident that we can trust God. But it also transitions from glorifying war to the good that we can do in the world, and a sense of, with God's help, that's something that we could change. So we're building up a story of Hanukkah. And then everything was changed for me when I learned from Rabbi Shoshana Boyd-Gelfand about some Israeli songs that I'd never before heard of that came about around the time of the Israeli pioneers. And so there are a couple of songs that I want to give you examples of, and I'm just going to read you a tiny bit of the text because they give us a very different message. So the first song is called Banu Choshech Legaresh, and some of the translation of the song goes as follows. We came to drive away the darkness. In our hands is light and fire. Everyone is a small light, and all of us are a strong light. Fight darkness, further blackness. Fight because of the light. If we fall, we still won't fear. So there's a sense of now we're taking things into our own hands. This isn't really about a miracle as much. This is about a responsibility that we have. And this allows us to be in charge in some way, and it gives a very different message. I'm going to give you a second example before I explain a tiny bit more about it. So the second example comes from a song called Anu Nosim Lapidim. And just 3 lines of the song really strike me. It says, we went to the valley. We discovered hidden lights. No miracle happened to us. We did not find a jug of oil. One of the things that I loved when I was studying was this idea of a transition in the identity of Jews, and particularly around the time of the State of Israel. I think that really continued. And so what we see is this idea of a kind of Jew of muscles. It's a term that's used to describe the transition from, we're not just supposed to be academics, we're not just supposed to be intellectuals or people who look at philosophy or who study. Now we need to be strong, we need to stand up for ourselves. And so the idea of these songs that give us a message that says, actually, this is us, we're responsible, we're the ones who can make the change, we're going to fight away the darkness. This isn't about a miracle anymore. So why am I excited about these songs? I mean, other than the fact that they're songs and I'm the cantor, so I get excited about such things. I'm excited about it because then my question becomes, what does our music today tell us? Yesterday, when Rabbi Miriam and I were sitting upstairs in the office and lighting during our big Hanukkah concerts, I gave some examples of a couple of different songs, and they were just slightly random. They were songs that we'd already sung downstairs when I chose them. So I think I mentioned Sevivon, the song about the dreidel, Mi Malel, Ocho Candelitas, and then we could add to that things like I have a little dreidel with the many verses that are possible. We could add a song called Light One Candle. I don't know how familiar that song will be to you. It's a song from the 60s. It's by Peter Yarrow. It was sung by Peter, Paul and Mary. I definitely recommend Googling it or YouTubing it if that's something that's interesting to you. And one of the lines of the song, in fact, let me read you a couple of the verses of the song. It says this: light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. And light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Now, of course, it doesn't rhyme all that well with a British accent, but you get a sense of the idea of the song. It's a song of peace, but it's still a song based in the story of Hanukkah. But it takes it and it gives it a little spin and says, well, let's figure out, let's make sure that we're fighting at the right time, but that we're also focusing on peace when we want to be. And so this is written in the 60s in America at a time when folk music is really coming about and when peace songs are really crucial. And so we see the kind of transition in the story of Hanukkah as something that that takes us on a journey, that brings us into where we are in the world. And so then if we say, okay, well, what's a song I would have to mention if I'm thinking about Hanukkah songs? For me, I can't avoid talking about Debbie Friedman's song, I Am a Latka. It seems like a children's song, but actually there's a serious moment in it. There's one verse that in true Debbie style, it can't just be a children's song. It can't just be about I'm a potato in a blender and I'm about to end up in a frying pan. There has to be something more to it. And I think her last verse is that point. So she says, it's so important that we all remember that while we have most of the things we need, we must remember those who have so little. We must help them. We must be the ones to feed. So again, we've got a message. Now it's about making sure that we look after other people. Now, I could keep going, working my way through all sorts of different Hanukkah songs, but the reality is I've got a question for you. And I think probably the only way for you to participate in this piece of the question is going to be to leave comments, or perhaps to discuss them around your table, to just see how it feels for you, the most comfortable way to participate in this conversation. And the question is, what does that mean about the Hanukkah songs that you sing, perhaps with your family or perhaps in synagogue? What are the songs that mean something to you? And what's the message that comes from those songs? So I'm struck by the fact that the one song that I think we probably all sing is Maltzor. And Maltzor is a piyut. We think it comes from around the 13th century. And it gives examples of times when God has helped us during moments of trial or tribulation. So that seems like it's kind of the song that's managed to last. And so I would just ask you, when you watch parodies, when you choose songs that mean something to you, what are those songs? Why are you choosing them? What's the message of them? And what's the message that we want to take into our Hanukkah as we go forward? So we're going to light candles together. Now, I'm going to try and find a way for you to be able to
I'm going to move the camera.
see the Hanukkah. So I think maybe, oh, it's quite tricky. I think you need to move back. Your
No,
phone.
you need to do this. Move the Hanukkah forwards. There you go.
It's too far, it's too far.
Because they can see it on that little one, you can see.
Oh, I see. Okay, this is
It's very
terribly confusing because
Let's
I have
just do it
no
on the phone
idea what I'm
camera.
looking
Okay, just
at.
look at what's on this screen.
Okay, that's good. I think we can see them. Hopefully we can see them.
Right. Okay, there we go.
The truth is, you don't really so much need to be able to see our candles. Hopefully you either have your own candles, or I believe somewhere down at the bottom of the screen, there's a link to a Hanukkah that you are able to light for yourself. I think you've chopped my head off, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. And I think the blessings are also somewhere on your screen.
They are. They're all below the video or on the right. Okay,
there. Thank you, Debs. Otherwise, you can also find them in your Siddur on page 375. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem. Always good to show that it does. Nothing has to be perfect. No, I just did that one. I'm going to go back and sing the first one again because I have a feeling we missed it. I got overexcited and jumped to the second one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, al hanisim ve'al hateshuot ve'al haniflaot ve'al hanechamot she'asita lavoteinu, she'asita lavoteinu. Bayamim hahem, bayamim hahem, bayamim hahem, uvazman hazen. I'm just going to add that if you know the real melody for that, I would love to hear a recording of it, because I have not yet found a version that I've actually heard. I learned it from Rabbi Miriam, and it seems to be that most people sing it that way. But if you have a recording, I would love to hear it. Not that in any way I don't trust Rabbi Miriam's perfect sense of it. And we'll end by singing Matzah together. Ma'otso Yeshuati Lachana El Shabeach Tikon Beit Tefilati V'sham Todon Ezabeach Leit Tashbit Matzbeach Mitzar Hamnabeach Azek Mor Bashir Mizmor Chanu-casts Mizbeach Azek Mor Bashir Mizmor Chanu-casts Mizbeach. So with huge thanks to Debs for her holding various pieces of technology. I've no idea if I was at any point looking at any of you. If not, apologies, and sending love to people tuning in from many, many places around the world and around the country. Tomorrow night we will be most likely starting at 8 o'clock as opposed to a little afterwards. And Rabbi Miriam will be ending our opportunity to be lighting candles together. So I wish you Chanukah Sameach, and look forward to hearing about your choice of songs for your family and for our community as we go forward into the last day, last night of Chanukah tomorrow. Chanukah Sameach.